Hey everybody, welcome in. Just trying to get my tablet set up here. Give me just a moment. Make sure we've got volume. We do, yay. Okay, that way I can kind of read chat and all that kind of fun stuff that, makes it a little more fun. And I am well aware that I am not out fishing right now. If you want to see somebody live fishing, check out Fun Fishing Adventures. He is actually out there fishing live right now. But I thought I would just take a little time on my lunch break and spend it with you guys. Trying to get all my little ducks in a row here. There we go. Get some of this stuff moved around and relocated. Things I should probably do before I get started, but we're not going to talk about that now, are we? Okay. So I'm going bluegill and crappie fishing as well as catfishing tomorrow. At least that's the plan. We all know how plans work. So I'm just getting some stuff together here and figured we could all chat at the same time, see what's going on in everybody's life. Again, if you want to watch somebody out there actually fishing right now, Fun Fishing Adventures, Scotty, he is out on the St. Francis River, catfishing and also crappie fishing. So my kayak only holds 3,600 boxes next to the seat and stuff. So I'm going to try to get some crappie lures in here and bluegill stuff. Some of the colors I have, I guess a little more faith in. That way I've got them in here and ready to go. Probably need to thread a few up as well while I'm sitting here because it's going to be easier to do it here than on the boat. And that didn't feel good. Amazing. Sometimes hooks are sharp. I know. Who would have thought? A couple of those. The problem is I'm picking out colors I like, which don't necessarily have any impact on what the fish like. But we'll do what we can. I do like these little panfish magnets. Hey, Spinoza. Good to see you. Good to see you. Also have some crappie magnets here. I'll put a few of those in there as well. Same company makes these Leland lures. And I really like their jig heads. The little dart head. I wish I could find somebody that makes them these light in bulk, but no such luck so far. Grab a few of these. Like I said, I'm picking colors that I like, which really don't necessarily have any impact on the fish preferences. And let's grab a few pinks, because why not? Spinoza, I can't read that. We only really do English here because that's all I was ever taught. Hey, really, dude? Got 4 bluegill with a red bead and a number 6 hook and half a red worm with a slip bobber. Yep. 2 white crappie on a holographic cream brand shad. I appreciate it, really, dude. Get some of the stuff off of my desk. And if anybody didn't catch the video from yesterday, Academy was doing apparently a one-day sale where they were kind enough to take $5 off any order over $5. I will not tell you exactly how many orders I placed, but it was more than 20. I do fish St. George Floyd. you're Down syndrome like me. I don't know that I'm Down syndrome, but thanks for sharing. Sometimes I have up syndrome. I don't know. Seems like a strange thing to come in and say something to somebody that says that, I'm glad you like my channel, though. I try to put a little bit of effort into it. I'm actually getting ready to go fishing tomorrow, actually. At least that's the plan. We'll see if the weather holds out or not. But those are what little trout magnets look like in these little dart head jigs. And this is going to be easier to do here than on the kayak. Because on the kayak, I'm trying to stay upright. It takes a lot of effort, believe it or not. Well, it does when you're as coordinated as I am, anyway. And where I'm planning to go fishing tomorrow. So if I read things right, and I should have looked again to make sure I read it right, but I'm thinking that we're supposed to have a full moon tomorrow, or soon anyway, and that will put the bluegill in a spawning mood, put them up on their beds, which hopefully will make them a little easier for someone with as little skill as I have to catch. We will see. Hey, Cowboy Joe, how you doing, man? And St. George, Florida, if you're actually looking for a channel that's live fishing right now, look up Fun Fishing Adventures. Scotty is out on the St. Francis River right now, catfishing and crappie fishing, and he's caught a bluegill and a bass, I know, so far. And he may have caught more since then. Scotty's a good dude. Definitely worth checking out. Well, St. George, Florida, if I look like you, man, I don't know how to help you. That's I can feel bad for you. It's about all I can do for you, my man. I have a face for radio. There is no question about it. I look better without glasses on, in my opinion, but maybe that's just because I don't have glasses on and I can't see myself as well. I don't know. But without the glasses, I can't see to do what I'm doing. So, there's that. Joe, glad to hear you. Glad to hear you doing okay, my man. If y'all don't mind, please do hit that thumbs up button. Let YouTube know that I'm an idiot, but still, an idiot you want to watch, because that helps get other people in here to watch this idiot. So there's that. Got at least one of each of these. Oh, we'll do one more here real quick. I never am sure what to use with bluegill, or not. I'm sorry, with crappie. Not sure what colors they prefer the most, but the place that I'm going, I expect will have fairly, for this area, clear water. Not like crystal clear or anything like that, but not absolutely muddy like the Mississippi is. And I fish around Memphis, Tennessee, for anybody who isn't familiar with the channel. And if you're not familiar with the channel, I don't blame you. I mean, I'm not even sure we watch. I rarely watch. Don't feel bad for me. You thought I was Down syndrome trying to find. Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know of any channels that are specifically Down syndrome. And I kind of feel like I'm being trolled, because people will come into live streams and say absolutely strange stuff for I don't know what reason. But, if you really do have Down syndrome and you're looking for another Down syndrome channel, well, then by all means, I wish you the best of luck, my friend. Like I said, people like to troll on YouTube, and I don't quite understand it, because the thing is, fishing channels are great. People love to hang out and chat, and I've met a lot of friends on YouTube. A lot of really good people out there, a lot of very supportive people. I realize that, kids want to be kids and want to troll, and I get trolling. I understand it. I consider myself to be fairly good at it myself, but yeah. But, people will come in here and say stuff like, I am pooping. Well, why would I need to know that? Why would you want to share that with anybody? I mean, I did have a friend in high school that he actually had a phone in his bathroom, and half the time when I was talking to him, that's exactly where he was. But, you know, we were actually, buddies, and, you could do stupid stuff like that. And I don't mind being trolled. I'm, kind of used to it. Thank you, Mortis Boy Adventures. Cowboy Joe, I'm on the other side of the state. She is in the beautiful part of the state, and I am in Memphis. East Tennessee is beautiful. The Tennessee River runs through East Tennessee. There's mountains over there. We barely have any hills here. The west side of the state is pretty much flat and boring. We don't have a lot of great fishing areas. I mean, the Tennessee River does run through West Tennessee in a couple of spots. We've got Pickwick, and then we've got like Land Between the Lakes area, Kentucky Lake area, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, there's that. My big thing here wasn't necessarily to go through all the crappie stuff. I've got a pretty good assortment in this box already. But I had a few other pieces I wanted to put in here, just so I've got, a little bit of everything. And then I was going to tie some jigs, spend my lunch hour with you guys. Tying some, not jigs, rigs. Tying jigs is a lot more interesting than tying catfish rigs. And I managed to even pull out more stuff that I didn't use. Oh, what else is new? That over there. So what I'm going to be tying, this is kind of silly. I've got some 2/0 Eagle Claw hooks. And see if I can find my barrel swivel. Those are really small. And some size 5 barrel swivels. And I thought I had some 30-pound mono, but I actually have 20 and 40, and I'm trying to decide which of the two I want to use. I'll go with 40. I really wanted 30. Thought I had some, but I was mistaken. And now somewhere under all this, there they are. I have some scissors. So the way I rigged these, first off, I got some 4 mil bags. I ordered some more on Amazon. They're like 3.2 mil or something. But I put down the weight of the line, so 40 pound, and then size of the hook, 2/0, and whether they're offset point or not. Because I do fish a lot in saltwater. I'm sorry, not a lot. I do like to fish in saltwater. And when I go down there, there are a lot of species that you're not allowed to use offset circle hooks. And so an offset versus an inline hook. So this is an offset. You can see how the point goes over to one side of the shank, whereas an inline doesn't do that. And the reason I'm using 2/0 hooks is because where I'm going is a fairly small lake. Let's see. Let me reach out here. What fish do I catch? I fish for bluegill, crappie, catfish, and then anything in saltwater I can possibly find. Been a few years ago since you were in the Army. Yes, definitely, definitely subscribe to Fun Fishing Adventures. I actually told them to go watch you, Scotty, if they wanted to see somebody that was live fishing right now. So I'm guessing, since you're here, that maybe you aren't live fishing right now, which is sad because you were doing pretty good. Scotty's a good dude. And I'm just trying to get some stuff ready for hopefully going out in the kayak tomorrow. And if you've never seen a fat guy fall out of a kayak, well, you are in the right spot, because I like to bring you things you've never seen before. If you want to see a guy with hair, now that's Scotty. If you've seen plenty of bald guys and you're like, I want to see something new, well, Scotty has his faults, but a lack of hair is not one of them. He has glorious hair. Kind of, depressing, actually. You want fishing? Well, everybody wants fishing. But what you don't understand, especially if the people who go on guide trips, and I am not disparaging people that go on guide trips. I think it's a great way to learn fishing. And honestly, and I think most people will agree to this that own a boat, especially if you have the boat payment. Between the maintenance on the boat, the cost of the boat, the insurance on the boat, the storage of the boat, the amount of times you get to use it a month for most people, paying $400 twice a month to go guide fishing is probably cheaper than owning a boat. Plus, if you're like me and you don't go out a lot during the winter, then there's 4 to 6 months that you're not out fishing anyway. And guides are known to, that's their job, right? They're not just a pretty face with a boat. They're a pretty face that knows, in a lot of situations, knows where the fish are. And that's kind of what you're paying them for, is not only the boat trip, but their expertise and the equipment that you're going to use. And they'll have the bait ready. And it's really just as simple as you show up at the boat ramp, you get in the boat, give them some money, and off you go out looking for fish. Doesn't mean you're going to catch them, but even if you go out by yourself, it's never guaranteed you're going to catch them either. So, anyway, I was going somewhere with this. I forget where it was. It's probably somewhere else. And so what I'm using here is I'm using an egg loop knot on the bottom. And this leader is a little longer than I meant for it to be, but oh well. And a tri-lane knot at the top. Like I say, I marked my bags, the line size, the hook size, and whether the hook is offset or not. And then in here, I will put a bead and a sinker slide. So when I tie it onto my main line, put the sinker slide on, put the bead on, and then tie the knot to the swivel that's already attached to the leader. And that's for your standard Carolina rig. And the sinker slide just, the plastic is, I believe, will be less abrasive than lead, than the lead sinker itself, just sliding up and down the line. And then the bead, I use the silicone, the soft beads. And that goes against the knot so that when the sinker comes down and tries to slam against the knot, it can't because there's something there in the middle. So that's that. Second, let me dig into my pile of plenty that I got from Amazon yesterday. And let's see, 1 ounce bank sinkers. Maybe more than 1 ounce. Shouldn't need anything more than an ounce for where I'm going tomorrow. And these are, I don't even know why I'm telling you what they are. They're 1 ounce bank sinkers. Got them at Academy, and yeah. And what those look like for anybody that cares, it's those kind of sinkers. And how the sinker slide works with those is you open up the hole, keep it clean, Scotty. And these won't fit these particular sinker slides, but if I used like a bigger one, let me show you, that has a bigger clip on it, you just go through the hole. And these are actually not going to fit either because the bin's too wet. But anyway, on those, you can just take a piece of mono, tie it through there, and then put it on the sinker slide that way. Most of the ones I use have the little brass inserts, so the top looks kind of like the top of a swivel. And another thing I want to do while I'm doing this, actually, let me take off a little bit more line. And see if it will go on this or not. Now the problem is the bend there doesn't want to go through the eye. So there's always a fix for that. What I want to do now is make a double dropper rig. So at the bottom, just going to double over the line and then make an overhand knot and then a second overhand knot. Just go through the loop twice, and that's basically, there's no basically to it. That is called a surgeon's loop. So you got this little guy at the end of your lines, and you can then fold that little loop so that it goes through the eye, and then you put the sinker through the eye, or through the hole, the loop, and he hangs there like that. And if you decide that 1 ounce isn't the right weight, you can then pull it back out and take it off and add something bigger if you so choose. So that goes at the bottom of this rig. Pardon me. And then what we're going to do, from the top of the rig, we're going to go through the back of the eye, which seems counterintuitive if you're used to the no knot snell, but it's because we're going down the line. So I'll put this one in about, I don't know, 8-10 inches off the bottom. So I've got the line here. This is going to be the tag end. It has a loop on it. And then we'll just wrap it around here 5, 6, 7, 8 until I decide that I've had enough times. And then take the standing end, which will be what is attached to the swivel up top, and you go through the front of the hook where the side where the point is. Let's see. Yes, fun fishing adventures, but Scotty, you said you were fishing a deep hole, and I said I like deep holes because those are good places to catch fish. And folks, if you haven't liked, please do double tap the like button. It lets YouTube know that you have nothing better to do than watch my stuff. So there's our first hook. And then I'm going to, again, go through the back of this one. We're going to go down, give it about another foot or so. And we're going to create another no knot snell. Run the line again through the back towards the point. And give it a little snuggy pull. There we go. And then top is where I will put a swivel. And again, this is just, the swivel is going to connect to the main line off of the reel. And what this does for you is you've got everything ready to go. So, you know, if you pull your rods out and, you know, last time you were using an 8/0 hook because you were fishing different waters, then you can just cut off the sinker, or not the sinker, swivel. Put that in one of these little baggies, and your rig is saved for the next time, and then you can just tie this one on. Or if you break off, or whatever reason, having as much work done before you hit the water, the better off. The more time you can spend actually fishing while you're out fishing. Wow, Scotty. Wow, wow, wow. So since I kind of have these planned for tomorrow, go ahead and in my little baggie that tells me it's a double dropper rig, I'll put in my 1 ounce weight. I will put in my little silicone bead. Just a second. Yep, nothing cares there. Okay. And then put my rig in there. And I don't need a sinker slide because, again, the sinker is going on the bottom of this rig. That way I can have two baits out at different depths in the water column, but still close to the bottom. And Scotty, I'm happy to hear that you and Debbie are dating again. I'm guessing you went up there. Anthony and Jay gave you some pointers on that. Why it is every time I go live stream, my mustache starts tickling my beard is beyond me, but it happens. So I'm going to do another one of those double drop rigs. If I can figure out where the end of my line is. Still haven't figured out. There we go. So yes, I do tend to make my rigs a little longer than I meant to. So when you see me cut off mono, it's because I just have problems estimating. So again, we're going to create the double loop at the bottom, the surgeon's loop knot. And for anyone who cares, I've done several knot strength videos on my channel. I have a playlist for them. I also have a playlist on how to tie some of these knots. And because if you're wondering why I use the trilane knot instead of the Palomar knot, it's because the trilane knot in my testing is a little bit stronger and harder to mess up. You would think that the Palomar knot would be impossible to mess up because it's just that simple, but you can introduce some twists in there while you're doing the tying that can affect the strength of the knot. And the reason that I use the knotless knot, or the egg loop knot in some cases, is because I found that the knotless knot actually extremely strong, which was, again, not expected. I thought that, the uni knot would be far and away superior. It was not. And for those who use the clinch knot, I have found no case where the improved clinch was not stronger and better than the clinch knot, which I guess should be kind of expected since it's the improved clinch knot. But improvements don't always make things better, right? So add that one little extra step on the clinch knot, turn it into an improved clinch knot, and you will have better results. Well, Scotty, you tend to appreciate the things that you have to work harder for, whatever that means. So it was good seeing her in your chat today. I was, as you can imagine, surprised because I did not know about the work in progress. And glad to see her back. You seemed to be very happy with her. We got 5 awesome people and 8 thumbs up, which is about 6 people more than I should have, and about 20 more thumbs up than I should have. So I am blessed that each and every one of you are here. I know that tying rigs can be kind of boring, and it is, but I'd rather share it with you than do it by myself. Also, I'm getting very close. I've got 2,870 some odd watch hours. I'm getting close to that 3,000 mark for the year. If you guys would be so kind, please, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Watch one of my previous live streams. Put it on overnight while you go to bed, or I don't care how you do it. If I can get some more watch hours, I would greatly appreciate it. I've been putting a lot of effort into the channel the last couple of months, and I would love to see it at least get me to partial monetization with 3,000 hours. All that really does for me is gives me the ability to get super chats and possibly membership. Although I don't know what kind of member perks I could offer. But it's always nice to get a super chat from somebody, regardless of the fine folks at YouTube taking their cut of 30%. Just kind of lets people know that you appreciate what they do, and you know, being here is enough, folks. I'm not begging y'all for money. I am begging for watch hours. That's a different story. Just having you here is really all I could ask for. The figure 8 to a cowhide. See, really, dude, that kind of tells me that you may be European, because the figure 8 knot is really popular over there, especially in the UK. It sounds like. Of course, you didn't call it the figure of 8 knot, so I don't know, because they tend to call it the figure of 8 knot. And yeah, I can't. I tried tying the figure 8 and doing some testing on it, and it did not turn out well. It didn't seem to be a very strong knot. Didn't do anything for me. So that was that. Got 2 of those. Let me get another couple of single droppers. There it is. Because my goal tomorrow is to have 1 panfish rod and 2 catfish rods. Not being used at the same time, of course. Well, the catfish rods will be, but in any case. So I've also, I like the egg loop knot. It's similar to the no knot snell, has a few extra steps to it, and I don't need the egg loop portion of it, but it does tie down the standing end so that it doesn't have the ability to just unravel itself. And I think a lot of people make a bigger deal of the unraveling itself than it really is, and it really, it comes into play more with heavier mono. But it, with the memory, it can push itself out, and that's, if I push it, then that's, that's one thing, but it can push itself out, and it bothers me. It bothers other people too. To the fact that I've never seen one actually untie itself completely. But anyway, hey, Fat Cat, good to see you. Good to see you. Scotty is or was in here. Hey, NJ Fishing Maniac, how you doing, my friend? Don't think I saw you live this morning, which is strange for you. Guys, if you are somebody who watches YouTube videos during the day a lot, not at school, not at work, kind of thing, NJ Fishing Maniac is a great guy to watch. He goes live a lot during the day. And he fishes up in, strangely enough, New Jersey. He fishes for carp and catfish and yellow perch and crappie and whatever he can get away with, whatever's biting that time of year. He typically does not keep fish. A lot of us are catch and release people, but I tell you that just in case you know. He does do a catch and cook every now and then. But he goes live 3, 4, 5 times a week. Yeah, I understand that. And I understand where you're coming from. I like doing live streams. But boy, if you're not catching fish, and that's not what I'm saying about you, I'm just saying about me. it's frustrating because you're like, well, what am I? Why am I here, and why am I failing in front of these people? But NJ, whether he's catching fish or not, he will keep you entertained, which is an amazing ability. You know, a lot of people, if they're not catching fish, are absolutely boring, like, you know, me right now. Whatever. You're allowed to have your right opinion. But yeah, sometimes NJ is always on for the camera. He's always, like I said, just he's on. He's engaged. He's talking to you. He's good at what he does. But I can see how that can get exhausting, or you know, maybe you just want to check out a new spot or whatever. So I absolutely get it. I did something that I think is interesting. I'll share it with you guys. So for those who don't know what a sabiki rig is, it's for bait fish. And in, you know, like a lot of people will use them for catching skipjack, herring. Well, Fat Cat, a lot of that's you're paying attention to your lines as opposed to the chat. For me, I use these sabiki rigs in saltwater, and hopefully it'll show up on camera. So I've got 2 size 10 hooks, and then a small snap swivel at the bottom where I'll put my weight or a jig or something to as my weight, and then a small swivel at the top. And the reason I made these, so like I said, these are size 10 hooks. They're on 10-pound line. They would have been a 20-pound line, but the eye of the hook was so small I couldn't get the doubled line through them. When I go down and fish saltwater, I fish for pinfish. And the idea is that these sabiki rigs that you can buy in the store are supposed to, you know, because they have real fish skin tied on them, which is just a little piece of almost nothing, are supposed to attract fish. Sure. Hadn't worked for me, but that's a whole other issue. I always tip them with a piece of salted shrimp or a worm or something, right? So that I can get the pinfish to bite them. Because the pinfish are kind of like, let the wing biting without those. And 6 hooks on a sabiki rig. It's too many. The ones you get in the store will have six hooks on them. Oftentimes I'll cut them in half. But the hooks, they tangle up on themselves. You get a pinfish on there, especially those pinfish, God bless their hearts, they are the most frisky fish I've ever seen. You get a fish like this and he will flip all over the place. And you rarely are going to catch, you may catch doubles or even triples. But they flip so much that they often knock themselves off before they even get out of the water. Caught a 4-pound channel and an number 8 hook Sunday. That's awesome, Fat Cat. Especially if he didn't swallow that hook, because a lot of times that happens with smaller hooks. And these are just using number 10 Eagle Claws. I've got a few of those rigged up. I'll rig up some more. Ever since I've gotten back from my trip down to the Gulf, my hands have been very dry and not, I guess, a little calloused. So I don't have as much feeling in the fingertips as I'm used to, which makes tying these little knots kind of hard. Anyway, so I'm hoping to use those. I don't think the lack of fish skin is going to make any difference. And this way I can control the quality of the hook that's on there. And because with the sabiki rigs, I guess you could buy better sabiki rigs, but they tend to have kind of cheap hooks on them. So anyway, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. But I'm really excited to get to try them out. Of course, I'm really excited to get back to saltwater fishing anytime I can. And I've not had the best of luck saltwater fishing. I don't know what I'm doing. I'll be honest with you. I mean, saltwater and freshwater are 2 completely different beasts. You know, as long as I've been fishing freshwater, if I run into a fish, I can at least give a guess as to what it is. In saltwater, there are some of these fish I catch, I'm like, I have no clue what this is. Little telescoping rod. Yep. Hey, tell stupid information about me. So I tried bass fishing competitive. Well, I thought I was going to be competitive. I was not as competitive as I thought it'd be. A little over 20 years ago. I thought that I could be the next Kevin Van Dam, and I could if Kevin Van Dam sucked at fishing, but he doesn't. So, I thought, I grew up catching fish all the time. How hard can this be, right? Turns out, not as easy as one might think. So, in my equipment, I only wanted one-piece rods. I had a boat, so, or even if I was a non-boater, still, I wanted one-piece rods because I felt like they were stronger. Sorry. And would hold up better and all that kind of stuff. And that the two-piece, it seemed like the two-piece rods would always break at the ferrule, which is the connector piece. And I didn't want to have to deal with that. There we go. That was a weird notch to cinch down. I'm not sure why it was so difficult on this one, but it was. Okay, anyway. Get this thing all settled up as soon as I can get my fingers to do what they're supposed to do. Here we go. But then as I started, like going down to Florida, I don't take my boat because it's a freshwater boat and I don't want to expose it to saltwater. Plus, up until recently, 40 pound, I didn't have a truck. So, pulling with the V6 SUV of my girlfriend's, I think hers is a V6. Hers is a hybrid, so it might be a 4. Just didn't seem like a good idea at all. Yeah, the dock is amazing down there. Throwing a wacky worm thing, maybe a jig as well. Yeah, Gillmaster. I liked wacky rigs. I think they're fun. I'm more of a finesse type fisherman. So I was before Ned rigs became a popular thing. I got out of it before then. But Ned rigs would have been more up my alley than some of this weird stuff that they're using now, like these gigantic jointed swim baits and stuff. These 2-ounce things that they're throwing. I'm like, man, my arm ain't going to handle that crap. Yes, boat, B-O-A-T. Or B-O-T-E, your choice. Hey, Swickies, appreciate you being here. Thank you for the like. Appreciate all the support, always. So anyway, as I'm going down there to go saltwater fishing, I'm realizing that what's going to fit in the back of her SUV with her kids back there is not these 7.5-foot rods. And I was going to get one of those little things that hang. Actually, I did get one of those things that hangs from the, at the ceiling level, but there's no place to tie it in the back, so that didn't actually work at all. So I've been looking more at two-piece rods, and of course, two-piece rods have come a long way. They're not breaking at the ferrule; they've got the bend where they need them, and that kind of stuff. Catch any lately? The last time, no. The last time I went fishing, I did not. I caught one bluegill, and before that, I was down in saltwater for a week. So, had a good time down there. Caught a decent number of fish. But anyway, trying new catfish bait tonight. A hunk of chicken liver, wrap, roll it with panfish skin. Call it the bluegill. Okay, so, not sure how well it's going to work there, really, dude. Here's why. The great thing about chicken liver is the fact that it's bloody and nasty and all that kind of stuff. And if you wrap it up too well, then all of the wonderful essence can't get out. But I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to keep it on the hook. Have you tried bait thread, magic thread? Basically, it's a little elastic thread that you wrap around 100,000 times. And it's supposed to keep stuff like that on better. I have some and have not used it even on shrimp because that's the word I'm looking for. It starts with lazy. Yeah, that's the word, lazy. Because one of the issue with using a live bait that no longer becomes alive or a whole dead bait is it doesn't leak. Through the hole that you through the little piercing you gave it, it leaks a little bit. But, a lot of people will at least scale it, cut slits down the side, that kind of stuff. A tumbler gauze. Yeah, I've heard of people that use like little finger bandages, gauze, and put them in there. I overthink things a lot. Like, well, will the gauze put the fish off? I don't know. I mean, I overthink things, and then, people are throwing pieces of flashing metal out there and the fish are biting it. So, I don't think fish are as smart as I think they are, although I'm pretty sure they think the same about me. Tubular. Yeah, tubular. Yeah, so, I overthink things, and I know I do, and I don't care much. That's actually where my entire not strength test series came from, was overthinking things. Black sewing thread. Hey, Gigability. Yeah, so the elastic thread, one, you don't have to tie it. You just wrap it around there and it kind of like clings to itself or whatever. It's not that expensive, and it's supposed to be fairly easy to work with. And from what when I've played around with it, it seemed easy to work with. I just, yeah, lazy is the word. It's called magic thread. You can also get it on Temu under, I think they call it bait thread there. Of course, it takes forever on Temu, but it's significantly cheaper. Like I say, I have several rolls of it. I just don't use it. Gig, I'm just I'm tying up some rigs, planning to, I should say, go fishing tomorrow on one of the local lakes. I believe it's supposed to be full moon. I think that's what I saw when I was looking up a calendar. I wasn't actually looking for the full moon part, or the moon phases all. I was looking for dates. I was like, oh, looks like it's supposed to be full moon soon. So that should, put the bluegill up on their beds. Yeah, lazy is yes. Well, for live streaming, I think those are the best species to go for when you're live streaming, or anything that you're using a set bait for, a set rig, right? Because otherwise, you're busy fishing and people are just watching you fish, and you can't interact with chat and that kind of stuff. So I think that those make better long form videos than live streams, because you can cut out you can edit so you have it down to the really good parts. And I think that interacting with chat is important in a live stream. I've watched live streams where people are fishing in such a way that they can't interact with their, the chat. And unless you've got somebody reading chat to you, which is actually a very valuable method. If you've got somebody reading chat to you, then that changes everything, because you can interact with your chat without, having to pay attention to chat. Actually, I'm not happy at all about a hardhead kill in the Crystal River. For one, if memory serves, the Crystal River is the river where you have a ton of manatees. So unless it's like an algae bloom, which manatees, I believe, breathe air, not through the water. Yeah. So I don't think that an algae bloom would bother them as much. But hardhead, any kind of catfish, is a very hearty species. And if it's killing the hardheads, it's killing a lot of other things too. And then, of course, an algae bloom, I don't know if that would affect grass because algae blooms take oxygen out of the water, but oxygen is not what grass uses. They don't use oxygen. Eight manatees. Damn it. I love manatees. I have no actual reason to love manatees. They're kind of, their nickname is sea cows, and I really can't tell you how accurate that is. They're just kind of big, lumbering, I don't want to say dumb animals but they're kind of big, lumbering, dumb animals. Yeah, I know the cold will get them. But I mean, to me, manatees are like dolphins. They're fun to watch, but yeah, and they are fun to watch. I love manatees. I was watching Rad Reeling Fishing, a video he did a few years ago. He's down in South Florida. And I believe it was the Crystal River he was on. I think he'd gone on a trip up there. And he even commented on his video going, dude. But he was actually complaining. He's like, I'm trying to fish here, and there's manatees everywhere. They won't leave me alone. They keep following me around. I can't cast anywhere because they're everywhere. And I'm like, my comment was, what you're seeing, most people would kill to see. That would be the experience of a lifetime for them, and you are complaining about it. And I understand where he's coming from, because there's a lot of things in the U.S. that people from other countries would kill to, well, not kill, but would love to have that experience that they can't, and we complain about it. So I get that. I get exactly where he's coming from. He was trying to fish. He wasn't trying to play with manatees. Oh, the hardheads died from cold? Well, So for those who are unfamiliar with hardhead catfish, they are saltwater catfish. They don't get very big. I mean, maybe 4 or 5 pounds is a really good one. If you get over, I would say 1.5 to 2 pounds is probably average, but they don't get big like blue cats, so there's no trophy value in them. And other than their big giant nostrils, to me, they look a lot like a channel cat. But people down in saltwater land will tell you that you don't want to eat them. They're nasty. People, Pompano fishermen that are out surf fishing, if they catch hardheads, they will leave. because they're like, well, nothing else is here. I'm not dealing with catfish. Yeah. I mean, hardheads are the trash fish to saltwater fishermen. They also have sail cats down there. Sail cats are gorgeous. They get a little bigger than the hardheads, and they have these, instead of a dorsal fin that like yay tall, be like this tall, and most of it is this big, just wisp coming off of it. Just they're beautiful. They're like fancy guppies. But boy, so the hardheads I don't get much slime out of, but those sail cats, oh my Lord, they will slime you up like there's no tomorrow. So needless to say, the saltwater guys, hardheads are the bane of their existence. The sail cats are supposed to be better tasting fish. I've never eaten either one of them. So I'm just going by what, other people have said. But they do, down there, they do not like hardheads at all. And then again, I mean, at one point I was sitting there going, yesterday I was complaining about these darn hardheads. I would love to catch one now, because then at least I'll be catching something. Anyway, I don't remember who was talking about it earlier. It's probably Anyfin. He was talking about, people, you remember the really good days where you were, catching fish all the time, and you kind of expect to have those regularly, and people expect that when you're live streaming that, you're going to catch, have those kind of great days. And if you've ever had a really good day of fishing, you know what it's like. And those are few and far between. My grandfather used to work for a construction company that would go in after disasters and, help rebuild the electrical grids and stuff. And we were down in New Braunfels, Texas when I was a kid. I was staying with them for the summer. And I don't know, somewhere from the job site, somebody gave him permission to go to their land and fish. So he took me out there to go catfishing. And this was one of those experiences that I will never forget until I forget everything. I was using chicken lure because I was a kid. I'd cast over to my right, maybe 10 feet, right off the bank. And I mean, my bait might sit there for 30 seconds before I caught a fish. If I cast it in front of me, nothing. So brilliant me decides I'm going to move down 10 feet and cast right in front of me, because that's where the fish are. So clearly that's easier for me. I bet you can guess exactly the number of fish I caught there. It was 0. It was a nice round number. I went back to where I started and fished the same spot again, and they started biting again. So that, as I've gotten older and I overanalyze things, and this is very important for bank fishermen. If you're going to be, if you're coming up to an area you want to fish, if you've got the ability, be 20 feet back from the bank and fish the area that you're going to be standing at. Because if there's fish there, they're going to move when they see you. And this way, they won't see you, and you can catch whatever's there. And then, once you decide that you've fished that area thoroughly enough, you've either caught what there is or there's nothing there, then you can move forward. And, as you cast, you're casting further out. Because one of the things that I think, one of the biggest mistakes I think we all make, and the saltwater fishing is one of those places where you can't really do this, at least not from the surf, casting as far as you can. Well, that's where I need to cast as far as I can. Okay, so if you cast out, let's say 50 yards, and you're getting hits at 50 yards, right? And you catch something and you're dragging it through those 50 yards back to the shore. You've upset everything along the way as he's fighting you. So you can run the fish off that way. So the best way to go is to fish closest to the shore, then further, and then like so. And I say that surf fishermen can't do that because the surf fishermen are trying to fish the trenches between the sandbars. So they'll fish, sandbars are your structure out there. And it doesn't mean the sandbars that you can see, but there is there's definite, when you see the waves crash over, it's because something has slowed that water down, and that's why it's crashing. So, normally, you have the wave coming, but then when it crashes over, it's because the bottom of the wave, the water under there has been slowed down, and the top keeps going. So the fish are not sitting up on top of the sandbars. They're sitting in the troughs between them. It may be just on one side of the sandbar or the other. So they're trying to cast to those specific areas. So they're, casting as far as you can, just blindly going, kind of, the old idea that, well, catfish are in the deepest part of the lake. So you find the deepest part of the lake, which is usually the center, and you cast as far as you can, and then, which really doesn't exactly work that way. So, again, things I've learned along the way, especially as I overanalyze things. I also remember one time I was out with a buddy on Lake Louisville, and most of the time when we'd go fishing, we'd both take our own boat. I think he worked out that direction. So, I'd meet him he'd take his boat to work, and then I'd meet him after work or whatever, take my boat out, and we'd communicate with each other. If we were catching fish, we would, let the other one know. We went out there, and it wasn't the first time I had seen sand bass boiling. Sand bass are white bass. They're related to stripers, but much smaller. And when they say boiling, what they're doing is they're chasing shad. And the shad and everything, there's so much turmoil at the top of the water that it looks like the water's boiling. And I'd read about it online. I remember the first time I saw it, I was actually out on Lake Lavon up north of Dallas. Out there by myself. I was bass fishing. And that started happening around me. And the first thing that went through my mind was, oh my God, is Loch Ness coming up? Is Nessie coming up for me? Because it was just so weird, because it's like the water was calm, and then and it was like the water started boiling. Because, it was just like how when water boils, the surface all changes, and it starts to become very busy for no reason if you don't know why it's happening. So I was lucky that I had read about that, because I got freaked out at first, because I'm like, what the? And that was probably the worst that came out of my mouth too. And I realized, oh, hang on, let me go switch to a rattle trap or something and pull me in some of these. Well, anyway, back to Lake Louisville with my buddy. So we were out there, and we call them boat shows. Basically, when you're out on the water and all of the boats are in one area. It's like, hey, there's a boat show going on over there. Kind of like if you ever see party coves on lakes where everybody goes to hook their pontoon boats up to each other and drink and swim or whatever it is they're doing. Well, this was because, it was acres and acres of sand bass just crushing the shad. It was amazing. We got over there, and because we were like, what is happening over there? We got over there. That's what's happening over there. So we joined in the party. And one of the things is, if you ever run into one of those and you're not interested in partaking, which is very difficult, because, man, when fish are biting, I don't care what fish it is, I'm all in. Kind of like, people complain about catching jack crevalles down in Florida because, they look like pompano, they fight good and all this kind of stuff, but they're not really very edible, according to most people. And they're like, it's just a jack. Me, I would love to get some of those jacks because they can get big. They can have a good fight. Y'all have all gotten really quiet, which makes it seem like I'm really boring. And I've met me, and it's true. This is my rig bag for tomorrow. I've got some free weights in there. I've got some double dropper rigs and some single dropper rigs. 2/0 should be plenty big for anything that's in there. I mean, even I know they've got 30-pound plus blue cats, and some, there's a few of those in there, but a 2/0 hook could still handle those. Which is why I didn't go to 20-pound line, because if I did hook into a really good fish, I didn't want to have to, break it off. Anyway, if you run in those, oftentimes the blue cats will be beneath them. So get you a decent enough weight on there that you can try to get through the white bass down to the catfish, because what they're doing, so the white bass are popping them up to the surface, and they're snapping at them, and a lot of times they'll snap at them, it'll injure them or kill them, but they don't actually get the fish. They'll kill it, but they don't actually end up eating it because they didn't get the whole fish in their mouth. They basically missed, but it still injured or killed the fish. So they flutter down, and the blue cats will be down there going, free dinner. So anyway, information in case you wanted it. And if you didn't want it, well, it's still there. Congratulations. So that was one of my, the great times of fishing, where, you couldn't not catch fish. It's also frustrating when you're in the right area and that happens, and then every boat just it seems like every boat in the lake just descends upon you. It's like, look, get out of here. I was here first. Go away. But they start seeing you pulling in fish, and I don't know. Some people have, I don't know if they're out there with binoculars or what, but you start catching fish, and here they come. It's like somebody broadcasted over the radio. Tell you another story about fishing. I was out on Lake Lavon, and I saw this guy catching a bunch of white bass. Hey, Nikki, good to see you. Good to see you. And I got within about 100 yards of him. I did not want to crowd him. I saw he was catching fish. I wanted to help him catch his fish, but I didn't want to tie up next to his boat. And he's like, and I wasn't catching anything. They were not, the fish he was on a small pot of them. He's like, come on over. So I went over, catching bluegill with a bead and worm yesterday. Been Googling different ones you can buy locally, but live. Yeah. So, I mean, the beads, if you're going to use beads for that, I would not get these soft silicone beads. I would get the faceted glass or plastic beads, and best place to buy those? Hobby Lobby. Walmart may have some in the craft section as well. Now, I use these soft silicone beads because I'm using them as basically knot protection, so that when the weight comes down, it doesn't crush my knot or damage my knot, I guess would be a better way of putting it. So I tell you that because those faceted beads, they will reflect light better, and I would definitely get the glass over the plastic if you can. But yeah, I mean, I think we all know somebody who has gone out there with a gold Aberdeen hook with no bait on it, and it's caught a fish, because the flash will give you enough of a target for these fish when they're hungry. Anyway, I was, like I say, about 100 yards or maybe a little less away from this guy. He said, come on over, come on, help me catch him. I mean, because he was pulling in doubles. And I pull up, he's like, oh, what are you fishing with? I said, well, I got rattle traps. And he's like, here. And he's like, pull closer. He threw me a slab spoon and a jig. He's like, tie this on. And so he was, it was great. We were sitting there. I love that kind of sharing where, he didn't know me from Adam. And I mean, it was kind of clear that I was trying to help him bring in some of those fish for me. And he's like, he's throwing them back because he's already got his limit. He's just out there having a good time. And those areas are not spots. It's wherever the fish decide to show up. That's the interesting part about it. You know, these are roaming fish. They're out looking for things to attack. So it wasn't like, you know, he gave me the super secret spot or anything, because, I mean, not that it was secret anymore. But, you know, the fish are going to be there until they're not, and then you got to go find them again. Trying to think of other just really good, phenomenal fishing days. I mean, during the sand bass run, if you get up in the creeks, because they'll head up towards the dam, and of course they can't get past the dam because they're below the dam. And that's always a good place during that time of year when they're trying to spawn. Because if they can't get up the creeks, they'll spawn on lake points and stuff. But if they can get up the creeks, they're up there. Yeah. So, like I say, that was kind of inspired by Anyfin talking about his, you know, those days, those, you know, where you just, they are few and far between, but they're like, you have one of those days out on the water and you think you are God at fishing. And then you go out the next day and you're like, God, I suck. So anyway, if anybody happened to look up the lunar map, are we supposed to be getting a full moon soon? Because if so, like say, the bluegill, it's funny because cat fishermen are like, a lot of fishermen are like, I hate the full moon. Nothing bites on the full moon. It's horrible. I think they're doing it wrong. Yes, lunar cycles affect tides, everything under the sun, or the moon in this case. So I understand that. But if bluegill are going to spawn during full moon, follow me here. And they eat bluegill. So the bluegill have gone shallow into their beds. Where would the catfish go? Let me think about it. Where would the catfish go? That's right, deep holes. Because no, they're gonna move up shallow too, right? They're predator fish. They're same with the bass. I mean, you go fishing in a bluegill bed, you're gonna catch bass because they're looking for free meal too. And if you've, I like sharing stories. I like sharing information. And this is all stuff that I've learned from other people. So, you know, it's just sharing for everybody else. I got a fishing buddy locally. He swears that you can smell a bluegill bed. He says you can smell it. It's kind of a sweet smell. And I've actually smelled what he says is he's smelling. And what he says it is. He says, because the bluegill can't leave their beds, right? You can run them off the bed. They'll be right back. So they're protecting the nest. Well, that's also where they poop. And because there's so many bluegill pooping in one area, that's what you're smelling is their poop. So if you smell it, you're near a bluegill bed. And it is, I mean, I wouldn't call it like a sweet smell, but there's a sweetness to it. It's one of those things that once you smell it, then you're like, oh, that. And if you ever get to find a bluegill bed, watch them. They're so interesting. Of course, you need clear water to see them, but they will run each other. The one that's in the nest. So your nest is going to look like it's just a cleared out area. So, you know, if it's grass or something or rocks, you'll find a cleared out area where the rocks are just not dirty anymore, where the silt has been swept away. You might find a change in depth, like a little change in depth. So yeah, I mean, in its purest form, it looks like little craters from the moon. You can see them. You can see these. They look like little craters, and they're going to be about 8 to 12 inches in diameter, because they sweep it out with their tails. They clear a spot for the female to lay the eggs. I think the male clears it out and the female lays the egg. I think that's how that works. I mean, I know the female lays the eggs, and I think the male is the one that protects the bed after she does, because he does his part of the ritual, and then he hangs around. Well, they will stay in that bed, and they typically are not eating. They're not feeding. So if you drop, just like bass, if you drop something in their bed, they're picking it up and moving it. They're not necessarily trying to eat it. They're going, get out of my bed. These are my babies. Well, other bluegill will come around looking for some babies to eat too, and they'll run them off, and then they'll come back and sit there, and it's funny because the ones that are trying to eat them are the smaller ones. And anyway, it's very interesting to watch. They do bed in groups. You can find beds from previous years that are being used again, but you can also find beds that are not being used again. A lot of times they'll return to the same areas. May not be the same fish, but the same type of fish. From what I understand, your red ears will spawn a little deeper than the bluegills, but you may find them mixed. You may find, bluegill at, one depth, and just outside of them, the red ears, or the red ears may be off by themselves. They don't tend to be right, interspersed with each other. But it's like any anomalies you can find, like if it's a grass bottom and you can see, you can see grass everywhere, but then this one spot doesn't have any, it's somebody's bed. I remember as a kid, like I said, I grew up on a farm, and I used to always hear this noise from a bird. I thought it was an owl because I finally figured out a couple of years ago it's mourning doves. Woo, 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 or something like that. And I always, the human mind is designed to try to find patterns, even where none really exist. An example would be, I like playing poker, and people go, man, twos are hot tonight. There's still only 4 on the deck. They have no better chance of showing up than any other card, just because you seem to believe that you've seen more, and they may have come up more. Doesn't mean they're going to continue, right? But the human mind wants to find patterns. So I always thought that indicated that I would be getting a bite soon, because sometimes I would, and a lot of times I wouldn't. But if I heard that mourning dove going off, and I was thinking about heading back home, I was like, oh no, sticking out longer. The fish are ready. I just, don't ask me why I came up. I was a kid. Leave me alone, people. Leave me alone. Another thing that I learned, again, I'm passing along information. I don't guarantee this to be correct, but the Bass Pro Shops during the spawn, it was like during their spring fishing classic or something, and there was a big female that was ready to pop. And I was over there watching it during times when I wasn't being a good pro staffer. And one of the experienced fishermen said, because there was this little bass that would come and just, she's like, this is her belly. He'd come up and just smack her right in the middle of the body, in the belly. And I'm like, what a little prick. He's like, no, they do that because they're trying to help her start popping eggs out. I thought it was interesting. Whether it's true or not, doesn't matter. It's a story. I love stories. And fishing stories are usually, we all know, fishermen never lie about anything. But I thought it was interesting. The other thing, we'll talk about noodling I will talk about noodling for a minute. You're welcome to if you want to. So one of the things that I hear from people is that have never noodled and never want to. I'm on that list. I mean, I'd like to watch it, but no. Same thing. Not sticking my hand in a hole. I don't know what's in there. And mostly because the idea is that you find a fish that's going to clamp on it and then do the death roll. And I'm like, that just is no, thank you. No, thank you. But, you know, like, well, you know, there could be a snake in there, or there could be a beaver, or there could be a turtle. What do all three of those have in common? They don't breathe through gills. So the chances of you being in an underwater hole that is truly underwater, right? Not one that's like, you know, half submerged where they can, you know, go up and then come up inside. They're probably not going to find those creatures there. Now, a snake can stay underwater for like 30 minutes, if I remember correctly. It's not, you know, it's not like they have to be up every, you know, few seconds. And I don't know how long a beaver stays underwater, but they're typically not going to be just hanging out in those holes like fish are. But again, no. And there's also the risk of if you have to stick your own head underwater to get to the hole, you could. Don't know that's ever happened. Theory is the fish could grab hold of you and you couldn't get your hand free from him. And he could keep you underwater because you couldn't get your hand free and you couldn't get him out of the hole. Probably an old wives' tale, but there's a reason they became old wives. Because the husbands were dumb. Well, I guess they became old widows, didn't they? Yeah, anyway. You don't hear as many old men tales because, well, old husband tales don't last as long because the old husbands are stupid. Yes, we are. What else kind of fun stuff? I don't know to have anything else useful to share. Let's see what else I've got up here that I can make rigs out of. Let's see. That's my swivel bag. It was funny. The guy at Academy was like, are you a guide? I'm like, no, just stocking up for the season. Those are some 4-aughts. We use 4-aughts. Because they were like, it took 4 of them to scan all my crap to get it out. I actually tried to do curbside pickup, and the guy comes out and is like, you got like 40 some odd orders. Can you come inside? And I'm like, waiting for them to call the cops. Going, you can't do this, which would have just been one of those where they could have just said, you can't do this. But I mean, I did everything. I mean, I was using their site the way they intended to be. You know, if they didn't set the restrictions right, that's their own business. But it took 4 of them to get all the stuff scanned because, you know, each order had 1 or 2 items in it. Because I reused the coupon over and over again. Because I wanted to. I love it. I love good deals. And I mean, kudos for them for not going, yeah, we're canceling all these fools because we ain't doing this. Because I was waiting. I was really waiting for the cancellations. But by the same token, I got stuff that I actually needed and would use. I didn't just get stuff for the sake of getting it. I was very specific in what I was getting and why I was getting it. You know, I could have got a bunch of bass lures, but I didn't want them. It would have done nothing much for me. I mean, I guess I could have got a whole bunch of chatterbaits, but again, I may have taken advantage of the system, but I wasn't trying to abuse it too much because I could have kept placing orders. Let me tell you, the thought did cross my mind. But I'm like, you know, live and let live. I'm still upset with them for, God, it's been 4 or 5 years ago. One day I'm looking at Academy and I find the Perception Outlaw kayak, which at the time was, normal price was $829, $859, somewhere in there. They're now $929 last I looked. There was a like $150 manufacturer's rebate on them, and they had it marked down to like $400. And for some stupid reason, I didn't just jump on it. I was talking to my girlfriend at the time, and I was like, do I want to? I don't know if I want to kayak, and I'd like to try it, but then what if I don't like it? And can I return it? And all this kind of stuff. And I decided a couple days later. I mean, it was in my cart the whole time that I wanted it. Well, then it said that your cart has expired, and I went to add it back, and the price was back up to normal. I'm like, so I contacted them like, it was in my cart at that price. I would like to get it for that price. And they're like, well, we run, specials and at different times. And, if the special's not there anymore, the special's not there, too bad, so sad, have a life. So I consider it me just getting even with them for that. But, I can make excuses. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Academy. I think they are an excellent store. They used to be family owned. I think until a little over a decade ago when they sold out to some corporation. But, when I lived in Dallas, I used to go up to the store in Plano a lot. And the people that worked the fishing/gun area were absolutely, I knew them all by name. Excuse me. And they were happy to be there. And sorry, I'm trying my best not to sneeze all over all of you. If you've been anywhere retail in a while, you know that people are not nearly as happy to be places, to be working at all as they used to be. And sorry, I'm digging through my swivels here. I thought I had some size 3s in here. Nope. Just use the size 1s I have. But they thought one of them was, forget his name, really nice guy, and it's one of those that you would talk your ear off about fishing, and just genuinely nice guy. But he talked about how they treat him like family there. Hey, I know this lady. Oh, well, what I'm doing is I'm tying up rigs in preparation for hopefully going kayak fishing at Glen Springs tomorrow. But of course, I need to talk it over with my hot, beautiful, gorgeous, amazing girlfriend and see if that aligns with her plans for tomorrow, because she does not have her children tomorrow. And in case y'all are wondering now, I now know something I didn't know before. That is, I have to be careful what I say about my girlfriend in front of you guys, because she may hear it. Beavers can stay underwater for 15 minutes, usually 5 to 6 minutes. And snakes up to 30. Yeah. Well, but my point being, they're not, that's not going to be where they make their home at, where they can't breathe, right? Not to say that they won't be in there, but they shouldn't be spending, a lot of time in those areas. They'd be in there looking for something to eat, and then, or something that they need or want, and then, get out of there. It's where I was headed with that. So yeah, I got to be very, very careful now what I say, because I don't know about y'all, but I don't like dying. How you doing, gorgeous? Spending my lunch break today tying up rigs. Figured I'd go bluegill and crappie and catfishing tomorrow if I can, depending on how the weather holds out and all that kind of stuff. Let me get back. My chat had stopped on my tablet. Now my allergies. For some reason, you guys give me allergies. Every time I go live streaming, my nose starts tickling, or my mustache starts tickling my nose, and my allergies just start pouring. Anyway. Well, guys, I've been live. I don't know. Oh, yes, I've definitely been live through my lunch break. It's probably time for me to go get back to work and do something useful with my life. And all that fun stuff. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. You are a blessing, especially the cute one that lets me kiss on her. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.